support. Give me a subscribe. What's up, rainy day nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM, coming to you live from Site B on a rainy Monday morning. It's the 27th day of the month of February here in the year 2023. Maybe. I don't know. I always get it wrong. And it's Monday, which means it's time for me and Steve the Cat to take a look at all the tabletop role-playing game news stories that will be charting this week. What nonsense and shenanigans are Wizards of the Coast, PAIZO, Kobold, and Drive-Thru up to this week that gives us things to talk about. So let's take a look at the tabletop role-playing game news of the week, shall we? All right, so we have the nominees for the top tabletop role-playing game live play podcast. Nobody cares about that. We've got Monster of the Week. Looks like it's making a second edition coming out. We've got the Avatar Legends tabletop role-playing game starter set is at Target now. This is what it looks like. This is everything it comes with. If you kickstarted it, you probably get this as well. So yes, Target, great way to get interest in this. I mean, that's basically their target audience. Pun not intended, would be, people who are familiar with the anime and we're looking for the toys and Avatar related stuff. So putting it at Target is probably the best place. It was one of the highest money-making Kickstarters of the year. It was on, I think it made like 10 million. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, if at all. We do have a little bit more news regarding the discontinuation of the projects that Andrew McNeil, the creator of Zweinhander, was working on. It looks like they are all finding new homes. So as those become more available to us, we will talk about them some more. But good thing to know that even though he is taking a step back, other people have picked up the torch and run with the product he has created. So yes, good to know if you are a fan of his stuff. Moving on. All right, our friends over at EN Publishing have made a Mega Dungeon because apparently Mega Dungeons are a theme this year. They're always floating out there. There's always a Mega Dungeon. Even, there's people who love the ideas of Mega Dungeons. There's people who tolerate the ideas of Mega Dungeons. There's people who hate the idea of Mega Dungeons, but they're just so ingrained in the framework of the hobby that there seems to always at least be one a year. And especially with the Dungeon 23 going on all this year, Mega Dungeons seem to be a thing. Well, apparently our friends over at EM Publishing have made their own Mega Dungeon called Vault of the Splintered Soul. So it's a 14-level Mega Dungeon to go explore. We've got previews, we've got art. It's available through EM Publishing. So if you're looking for a 5e adjacent Mega Dungeon, here you go. And speaking of 5e, hey, there's a playtest out for 1D&D. It covers Druid and Paladin classes. And apparently the big news is now the way Druids are written. You can Druid Owlbear, sort of. So that is how much attention Owlbear Conspiracy, Owlbear Gate got, that Wizards of the Coast felt in order to ride the negative press attached to the movie because the tiefling can turn into an owlbear. They have added a mechanic to Druids where they can turn into owlbears. Sort of. Now, mind you, if you look at the stat block for the hit dice of an owlbear compared to the hit dice of any other animal that a druid could wild shape into at that level, there's really not that much difference, other than the fact that druids now can only wild shape into beasts, and an owlbear is a abomination. Their stat block is not that fantastic, okay? So I really don't see any reason why they couldn't do it anyways, other than it's an abomination because it's half owl, half bear. The wings don't allow it to fly, so it's basically just a bear that's cosmetically different. Other than that, yeah, there's nothing special about it. Well, under the new playtest rules, because of Owlbear Gate, now druids, when they wild shape, they just get a stat block. Doesn't specifically say alligator, horse, whatever. It just says you're now wild shaped into this blob. And you can make that blob look like whatever you want. So if you want to look like an owlbear, you can. Here's the stat block. But you're technically not an owlbear. You're just a blob stat block that looks like an owlbear. So, win? Also, they claim this is the second playtest for 1D&D. The second playtest, it also has some new spells, some new feats, some other things, some more rule changes. The usual round of why did you nerf it? Why did you make that more powerful? Unless somebody specifically says they want me to look at this, I'm not going to look at it. Apparently, Wizards of the Coast seems to think you need to be told how to playtest the product. So that is a big thing as well. And at the end of the month, they will release the survey, and then they will extend the survey because they didn't get the results that they wanted when they asked the questions about the surveys about paladins and druids and whatever other rules they changed. Now, far be it from me to argue with Wizards of the Coast's embracing of Scott Steiner math, but this is not the second playtest. This is the fourth. But okay, according to Wizards of the Coast math, it's the second. And who are we to argue with the brilliance of Scott Steiner math? So if you think it's the second Wizards of the Coast, it's the second. It's out there on D&D Beyond. If you want to read it, please feel free to. This exists. If you've ever wanted a life-size replica of a mimic sitting in your house, you can now get one. It costs about $400. It's about the size of a, well, I think we figured out it's like 1 foot by 2 feet. So I guess that's the size of a life-size mimic. I mean, there's really nothing you can base it on because mimics don't exist, but it's about the size of a life-size small chest of drawers. So sure, why not? Catalyst is continuing to release more stuff for Shadowrun. I guess now that they feel that there's somebody out there who is blatantly copying their IP and just giving it a different name, now is a good time to reintegrate the original magical cyberpunk setting and let people go, hey, we did it first. So yes, more stuff for the Sixth World setting from Catalyst for Shadowrun. We have a new source book called Astral Ways, which allows you to explore the multiverse of the Shadowrun setting. What? People are still trying to milk that? Well, I guess with Planescape coming up at the end of 2023, a couple other people out there who have fantasy magically adjacent type games are going, well, if Wizards going to jump on the multiverse grenade a little too late, maybe we should as well. Because look, Marvel, multiverse, yeah. Modifius has brought us some more information for Fallout. They're releasing some new factions for the Fallout RPG. So if you're familiar with the world of the video game and the world of the role-playing game, you're probably well more informed about the factions in Fallout than I am, as I have never played it, the video game or the role-playing game. I mean, I know people talked about it, so I know it's huge, but I never played it. But apparently there are factions in Fallout, and Modifius is now releasing a book of factions for Fallout. And speaking of IPs based upon other IPs, we have the Walking Dead universe coming out from Free League. So this is going to be a Walking Dead inspired tabletop role-playing game from Free League. I don't know if it's going to be using it is going to be using the Year Zero engine. That's cool. It has a direct release to the Walking Dead universe official website. Now that the Walking Dead, TV is over, I guess they figure it's okay to dive into the Walking Dead universe. I mean, I don't know how you're going to cover 8 seasons, 11 seasons of a TV show in a 200-page book. You're going to talk about the world before, during, and after. Are we going to explore major characters? Are you going to, finally rationalize why people are so stupid in these universes? That'd be interesting. Is there a market for a Walking Dead universe role-playing game when there's already so many zombie-inspired role-playing games that have done basically The Walking Dead? The only thing this different would be is that it has specific links to The Walking Dead universe as opposed to just generic zombie horror stuff. At least we'll get stat block for Negan, so whatever. And after being told they weren't going to make it, they're making it. Larian Studios now is currently holding the rights to the Baldur's Gate 3, and it looks like we can expect Baldur's Gate 3 sometime in August for the PlayStation, and then for the other type stuff later on. So the never-ending saga of Wizards of the Coast video games continues. So Baldur's Gate 3 was announced, delayed, announced, put on hold, announced, canceled, announced, canceled, and now once again announced. Now in the hands of a new company, not Wizards of the Coast Digital Media. Hasbro has handed the reins for this title off to another third party, as we will have seen with previous titles that Hasbro didn't quite trust Wizards of the Coast with. Now it seems that they are slowly handing off their various video games to third parties instead of doing it in-house because, they don't trust Wizards of the Coast. I know there's people out there going, you don't know what you're talking about. Wizards of the Coast is fine. It's like, no, dude, no, it's not. It's not fine. Wizards of the Coast is not fine. Hasbro knows what they're doing. That seems to be the tabletop role-playing game news of the week. Of course, we can end this with the continuing saga of Men, the most manly role-playing game ever written. So manly that it was banned from drive-thru. There is now a digital trailer, which is absolutely hilarious for Men. Men is available exclusively on Lulu and Big Geek Emporium. So if you want to support my friends Sylvia and Miguel and get this incredibly controversial troublemaking RPG, you can. And it would show that you are not against censorship. All right. And against the way the drive-thru seems to have double standards. Because Men is... You can't have that game, but thirsty sword lesbians is perfectly fine. I obviously need coffee because I can't talk. It's the rain. I blame the rain. That's all the tabletop role-playing game news for this week. So it looks like we will have more of the same from Wizards of the Coast. And meanwhile, we are all eyes turned to the competitors because Matt Colvill has now thrown his hat into the ring. He announced on Friday that he's making a role-playing game as well to compete with one D&D. So currently we have the mysterious ORC from PAIZO, which other than being announced, we have seen no movement on. We have the mysterious Project Black Flag from Kobold Press, which based upon the first round of playtest looks exactly like 5e, if slightly more powerful. And now we have Matt Colvill throwing his hat in the ring. He's claiming he's making a role-playing game. We have Level Up 5e still out there as one of the main contenders to the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Throne. And of course, at the king of the heap, we have PAIZO's Pathfinder 2nd edition, a game so popular over the last year that it is literally sold out. And they have to reprint 6 months' work. That's how far behind they are because it has become so popular because of what happened in January. But now February is almost over, and some people are starting to forget what happened in January. The pain is starting to subside. The wounds are starting to seal. And we're looking at what Wizards of the Coast is doing, and we're like, okay, yeah, you're just basically doing the same. I mean, come on. Already Golden Vault is doing that badly? Wow. But I guess they're not afraid of their competition because so far their competition, all the people who were like, screw you, Wizards of the Coast, we're going to take you down in January, are now like, yeah, we'll get around to making that eventually in February. Mainly looking at you, PAIZO, because we all know, PAIZO, you have a history of saying you're going to do something and never doing anything with it. And now it's pretty much March, and we still haven't seen much movement with what's going on with the ORC. Or, Project Black Flag, which, based upon the first playtest, pretty much looks exactly like Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Or, I guess now, as it's called, 1D&D. Or whatever it is Kyle Brink called it this week. Hey, I've got 1,300 subs. Kyle, you want to let me interview you? Because I'll sell out. Speaking of selling out, if you want to support the OGGM Adventures, hot tags, head on over to my sponsor, Big Geek Emporium. Head on over to the Minions on a Mission Adventures. Head on over to the OGGM shop on Big Geek Emporium and buy my merch. Support the OGGM Adventures. Help me keep a roof over Steve's head. Till next time, Stay safe out there because it's raining, and I will talk to you all later. Sees ya.